Shout out to the gayest podcast out there with Ross and Calum, jiujitsuoracle.
Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu Oracle second preview of CJI. In this, we're going to do the hypothetical matches. In the first preview, we previewed the first round matches, picked a winner in each one, and the Chael Sonnen v Craig Jones super fight, and the first round of the women's bracket. So this video is all about the semi-finals in the male bracket that we're predicting to happen, and the finals of the women's bracket that we're predicting to happen. These are predicted matches. We're going to have to see what happens on the first day of CJI to see what the matches actually are. And also, we're going to save our prediction for the final until our video that recaps day one. Yes, we will have a day one recap video, so like and subscribe and follow the channel so you get all the Jiu-Jitsu Oracle content over this incredibly busy grappling weekend. Right, Calum. And I'm Ross, in case you don't know by now. Calum, the first predicted semi-final we came up with in the top half of the men's bracket was New Wave against Atos. Talk me through this incredibly difficult match to call.
Yeah, this is really difficult. It's really difficult. I think the only way I've kind of came to my conclusion, I think it could easily go either way. Both have got really good grapplers. Both have got like really good grapplers that can be inconsistent. There's like some wild cards like Mika that could punch above his weight. You've got the top heavy Atos with like Kynan and Felipe, who are both multiple time ADCC champions. So many variables with it. Atos has a slight edge in the fact that everyone is sized appropriately, whereas like Giancarlo had to move up a weight class, and I wouldn't see him matching up against Kynan or Pena too well. In my head, just to like make it easy, even though it's not this simple because people aren't facing people in their own weight class and there's a lot of different things to it, just so I've came to my decision, I've just counted up like 66 versus 66, 77 versus 77, and so on. And in my head, I think Pato is likely to beat Dorian. I think Mika is likely to beat Ronaldo. I think Hulk, because he's done it before, is likely to beat Wagner. I think Kynan is likely to beat Badone because he's done it before. I think Luke versus Felipe could go either way. Not that it matters, as you can see, because it's already 3-1, but you could argue Felipe just because he did it at last ADCC. So just because of that, I would edge towards Atos. But like the way that the weight class are in, you could easily switch things around and you could have like Giancarlo beats Hulk, you could have Mika beats a person out with his weight class. So it's not necessarily a foolproof way of doing it, but just because it's such a difficult decision, that's why I've decided to come to my decision of Atos.
Okay. I'm picking New Wave, and the way I reached my decision is I think the 5 matches are all going to be draws after 8 minutes, because when you put highly skilled elite grapplers against each other, it can be very hard to score a submission victory. And I think ultimately New Wave get a judge's decision after a 0-0 score based on the 5 matches where New Wave have had more activity, more proactiveness in those matches. I think Dorian will be more active than his opponents. I think Mika, likewise, maybe not Wagner, but Giancarlo, I could see getting a judge's decision against whoever he faces, and the same going for Luke. So that's the way I've gone for it. I think 0-0, judges favour New Wave. I think we're trying to make a pick here. We're trying not to sit on the fence and just like say we can't make a pick because it's too close to call. But it is very close to call. Like, I don't really think you can definitively split the teams. And I think it's going to be a really interesting battle. We're talking hypothetically here, but let's just say we're in the coaching positions. You're John Danaher. Who'd you put out first for New Wave? That's the thing you can control off the bat.
Maybe Mika do some damage, get the team ahead. Because I think you maybe want to save Luke to hold down the fort at the end. I think Mika or Giancarlo, if you had an inclination of who was coming out, you could maybe say Wagner to like take that person out, but without knowing, Mika or Galval, and then out of those two, whoever isn't put out first can still do some damage later, and you can have Luke to hold down the fort at the end, I think.
See, Wagner, I think, is a really interesting one because he's an 88 guy that's really tough to beat regardless of who you are. So he could get a draw either against a big guy that Atos sends out or against a lighter guy who's a big submission threat. So I actually think putting I said in the preview video, it's where we talked about strategies you could play. I said the way I would play it is that I don't mind so much about trying to win the first match, but I definitely don't want to lose the first match. And I would be absolutely fine with drawing it and trying not to play in from behind with an early deficit. So I think, yeah, Wagner going out first is an interesting one because it would then allow me to keep Luke and Giancarlo back who have more submission threat. And I like having big guys with submission threat later on, either to try and make up a deficit or to get you over the line. So I would maybe head towards, like normally I'd put an under 99 or an over 99 out first, but because Giancarlo's technically under 88 guy, I don't really see him fitting into that category of like big guy, hard to like get anything going against, durable, can slow it down, can stall it out. I think his skill set is better than that, and I'd want to use that differently later. So maybe I'd send out Wagner in place of Giancarlo first, and I'd try and save Luke later on. Your Andre Galvao, what'd you do with the Atos team thinking about playing New Wave? Who'd you send out first?
Maybe Felipe, but it's difficult with Felipe and Kynan because like they're so capable of just being the absolute best guy in the world, excluding Gordon Ryan on any day, but they're also capable of like making some big fumbles. So it's such a difficult with those two, but I think, yeah, maybe put Felipe out first. I think he's capable of submitting anyone on the other team easily, but he could also lose to some of the guys. But yeah, maybe Felipe first.
But if, like, we're talking about losing, so it's losing by sub. So in an 8-minute match, is anyone in New Wave, if Felipe comes out and plays guard, likely to pass Felipe's guard and submit him? And like we've seen Felipe against Gordon have enough wrestling to keep it on the feet. So maybe if you go Felipe first and you keep Kynan back a little bit, because Kynan can come in and just wreck. Like Kynan's like
or lose to like someone that you shouldn't lose to.
I do get it, but I think I switched on Kynan, who's like super determined. Just because it's in the news right now with the NFL, Micah Parsons going from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers, right? Micah Parsons is definitely in that category of game wrecker, right? And it's like just these guys that exist in the NFL that can just like tear up a game plan because they're so destructive. And Kynan can be like that, although sometimes we get the Kynan who doesn't really seem like he's arsed, and sometimes we get the Kynan that just like has a brain fart and loses. But yeah, what I'm saying is I think Philippe being hard to pass his guard and having good enough wrestling to keep it on the feet and stuff like that, I'd probably send him first, and then I'd save game wrecker Kynan, because I think like if you try to put Philippe in as a game wrecker, it doesn't have the same destructive potential quality as Kynan. So that's where I'd maybe save Kynan back. And then you've always got the Hulk factor as well, because even at under 88, like Hulk is a unit. So again, it's not such a big jump between Hulk going up against like an under 99 or over 99 guy here. But again, I don't know, like Hulk, I think he's got more potential for submission wins. So I'd maybe hold that back till I need it. I like to come out and just maybe like draw the first one, get like a bit of confidence in the team, get it going, not lose, not feel we have to play from behind, not get guys chasing and making mistakes, you know. So, but yeah, I'd be fine with Philippe or Hulk going out first. I'd probably lean Philippe, like you, save Kynan. But yeah, so I'm saying New Wave gnarly. You're saying Atos gnarly. I think the second semi-final is. We're predicting in the bottom half of the men's draw is B team against Australasia. So, Calum, let's just talk about the match as it is. Who you favouring and why? I mean, we can maybe put our coaches' hats on again.
Yeah, definitely B team. I think if you're comparing weight class for weight class, the only one, well, it's interesting because like Fabricio, generally I would rather have him on my team, especially in this kind of event, than Ethan, but Ethan did beat him pretty decisively by submission on who's number one. So it's difficult if you were to match it weight class for weight class that you wouldn't give that to Ethan, even though Fabricio has more merit outside of his weight class. But I think aside from like the 88 spot, probably lean B team in every single slot, and then I think their guys are pretty capable of competing outside their weight class as well. Then I think the best thing about B team is they're two heavy guys. I think they've got arguably the best two heavies in the tournament. Could argue that Atos does with Kynan and Felipe, but given recent form and maybe consistency, you could argue B team for that. And then they've also got Joseph Chen, who's really solid as well. And then Chris and Ethan are obviously really good too. But I think the depth of B team is going to be too much for Australasia, and those two heavier guys as well are going to be really difficult for Australasia to beat in any sort of capacity.
I think that's...
Well, say that. Look at Lucas Kennard can obviously submit Victor Hugo because he's done it before, but generally speaking,
I think that's fair. And why don't we look at this one slightly differently rather than how we looked at the first one in terms of coaching? So in a situation like this, is there anything Australasia could do to pose B team a bit more problems? Is there anything they shouldn't do in terms of their lineup? Because it would be a silly move. So how do you think? We've got Fabricio Andre, Kenta Iwamoto, Lucas Kennard, Bilal Echibari, Declan Moody. Is there anything we could do with those guys that might give them a chance of like making it a closer semi-final than it might look on paper?
Yeah, I've got an idea. So obviously you don't know who the other team's going to put out first. So if I'm Australasia, I maybe put Fabricio out as my jab because he's capable of like beating or drawing with any of the bigger guys. And then say that like they send Victor Hugo out and Victor Hugo beats Fabricio, then you can put Kennard in because you know Kennard's capable of beating Victor Hugo. Then if Kennard does beat Hugo and he submits a couple people, I think in that circumstance, then Australasia's in with a real shot because then say Nicky Rod's at the end and then Declan can just like draw him out, draw with him or whatever. I think that would be their best shot. Putting Fabricio out was a jab, and then either he draws or wins, or if he does lose and they know who they're up against, they can maybe be a bit more selective with who they put out to try beat that guy.
So the way I see it with that is like, I think in an 8-minute match, Fabricio and Kenta have potential of drawing against bigger guys. So could it be that somehow Fabricio and Kenta manage to get draws against Nicky Rod and Victor Hugo? And then it makes the match Ethan Krellston, Joseph Chen, and Chris Wojcik against Lucas Kennard, Belal Echibari, and Declan Moody.
I'm just going to look up what happened because Fabricio did face Victor Hugo at ADCC in the Absolute, and Victor Hugo won, but I'm just I don't know if it was by submission or not, so I'm just going to check that, but you can
go for it. And just if we were talking through this situation, the thing I think's interesting about this Australasia team is Lucas Kennard, Bilal Echibari, and Declan Moody are all big leg lock submission threats, and they can win matches and get scores on the board. I wouldn't favour them to get a leg lock against Nikki Rod or Victor Hugo. But could it happen against Chris? Like, Chris plays on the leg, so could there be a leg lock shootout that Chris wins or one of the other guys win? Possibly. I think it's really tough to submit Joseph Chen on the legs because we've seen him survive against Szynski. I mean, we have seen him lose to Szynski as well, but like, he's obviously made strides in his leg lock game, knows how to play against good leg lockers. So tough to do it against Joseph. But then Ethan Crownston, could Lucas Kennard, Bella, or Declan get to a leg lock possibility on Ethan? Maybe. So, like, if you could make the match like one of your leg lock guys against either Chris in a shootout or Ethan, maybe get a score on the board, get some draws in other matches, maybe a big shock could happen. Don't expect it to. I just want to talk like figuratively, hypothetically about how such a thing could happen. What was your analysis?
Yeah, so Fabricio lost via arm triangle, or kata gatame, as they say in Texas. But yeah, so he did lose by submission, but I don't think it's out the realms of possibility for him to draw against Victor or Nicky Rod, especially given the context of like that would be a really good thing for his team, whereas in ADCC you're just trying to win the match regardless. You're not going into a match hoping to draw, you're hoping to win, whereas it's a different strategy for this. So is it unlikely that he would draw against Victor Hugo, Nicky Rod? Probably, but I don't think it's out with the realms of possibility. And, you know, they're going to be relying on a long shot for their win anyway, so it is definitely possible.
Cool. Right. In a later video, once we're recapping day one, we'll talk about a projected final, and assuming that all these teams get through, I mean, this might go out the window, but we'll talk about whether we think B team against Atos or B team against New Wave would make for a better final, a closer final, which team would want to face whom, who matches up better against whom, etc. We're saving that. The other thing we know that will have a hypothetical match is the final of the women's bracket. In our first preview, we favoured Adele just to come through narrowly against Helena, and likewise Anna Carolina against Sarah. So we're projecting a final of Adele against Anna Carolina. Might not happen. We said these first round matches in the women's tournament are going to be super close. Could see them going either way. But if it was Adele and if it was Anna Carolina, who do you think becomes the champion and takes away the $100,000 first prize?
It's difficult. I think I'd maybe have to go with Adele just because, like, what she's done on form recently, she's shown the capability to beat people in Anna's weight class. Shame that Anna didn't do the absolute that year, but maybe slightly towards Adele. But again, it's pretty close.
I think so. Based off the back of that ADCC run and then subsequent performance, which did very, very well against Fionn, I think on form, Adele is the grappler to beat in women's grappling. That said, Anna Carolina, the last ADCC, was very impressive. Beat Helena. So we're looking at Adele or Helena against Anna Carolina. It would probably be the situation where Adele or Helena are more guard on their backs, etc. Anna Carolina's on top. Anna Carolina showed she could win that match against Helena. Could she do the same thing against Adele? Possibly. Like, you know, I don't think Anna Carolina submits Adele. I think it's more likely that Adele could submit Anna Carolina. If it goes to decision, it's like depending on where the match has taken place, the rules, etc. I would lean towards Adele just based on form. Would not be surprised if everyone's looking at like the young guns in this bracket, Adele, Helena, and Sarah, looking at one of them to come through and take it, and it's actually Anna Carolina that wins it in the end, the vet. But yeah, I'm happy to say maybe slight favourite would be Adele in that situation. Okay, that wraps up our predictions going into the event. We're going to watch the first round of these matches on Sunday morning UK time, and then we plan to record a video after lunch to then preview what will be the second day of CJI, which will happen Sunday night. Well, yeah, Sunday night American time, and that's into the Monday morning hours, our time. So what we'll do is we'll get up on Monday morning in the UK, we'll watch the event, and again, we'll try and get a video out on Monday afternoon, wrapping it all up. So like, subscribe, etc. to the Jiu-Jitsu Oracle so you can get more content, and jump into the comments and let us know what you're thinking, and let's make this like a fun community for the weekend, where people are sharing predictions and ideas and expectations of what will happen at CJI 2